How to fix the Jets? That's a loaded question for us to figure out here, Frankie. But that's what we're going to try and do today on today's episode of Gangs All Here. I'm Ryan Sampson. That's Frankie Vittorini from U Stadium. Frankie and I have put together a document how him and I, more of a blueprint, I would say, actually.
Manifesto.
Just how to fix the Jets. And honestly, we took a real look at this and figuring out free agent targets, what they should do in the draft, and the future of the quarterback and coach here with this Jets franchise. We're taking a realistic approach here. We didn't try to make this a fantasy camp trading for Joe Burrow for 5 first-round picks. No, none of that. What we're doing on today's episode is looking at an honest, realistic approach of how we can fix this current Jets team and franchise to put itself in a better position for the future. I'm looking forward to this one, Frankie.
Absolutely. And not only did we look at the right fits, schematically speaking, we looked at the right players to come into this locker room or go to the Jets locker room at 1JD and actually change some of the culture there. Because like Kaz says to us all the time, winning makes culture. I think sometimes you need some players to help you win so you can build some culture. So we're going to get all into that.
Yeah, it's the foundation of how they're going to ultimately turn this thing around, if they can turn this thing around. Stick around for today's episode. How to fix the goddamn Jets, man. It's a loaded question. It's something I think a lot of Jets fans obviously are always talking about. We see all the content creators. We see the beat writers. This is that time of year now, Frankie, in the offseason where they start coming together with free agent targets. What are they going to do in the mock drafts? For the actual draft itself, trade possibilities. There's endless things to talk about, obviously, in the offseason. And the Jets are kings at making the offseason like their championship, if that makes sense. And I think for us today, like the big thing that we should be focused on and what we're going to tell the fans here is this is a plan we think that makes sense for this team. It's realistic. And I want to start off with the free agency, man, because that is the first thing that's ultimately going to happen here for the Jets before the draft. And before that is going to be what are they going to do in free agency, including their own players that are free agents. So let's start off, buddy, with where they're at currently heading into the offseason. Right now, the Jets are projected to be somewhere between $74 to $83 million, depending on structures of contracts, and that's how much flexibility they're looking at right now. But I think we both agree the first thing the Jets got to do is figure out who they're actually going to cut from this roster to provide more flexibility and who they'd like to retain going into 2026. So you had some players here that I'm interested to react to. The first being, of course, Justin Fields. It seems like all signs are pointing to Justin Fields. His time is done with the Jets. It was a one and done. It was an experiment that went horribly wrong. He had one of the worst statistical offensive seasons as a quarterback can have. And it looks like he's going to be a cap casualty here. They'll most likely designate him as a post-June 1st cut. $10 million they could save on the cap. What do you think about that?
I think it's inevitable, man. I think towards the end of the year, Justin Fields really didn't want to play football. And I think this team needs players that want to play football no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think when Fields came here, he was given the keys as the starter. There's no competition, Justin. This is your team, or you're the quarterback here. And I thought that was just a bad way to set him up for success. And he sort of took it for granted a little bit, I think. And then you just have to get him out, man. I mean, the Justin Fields experiment failed. And I don't even want him to stick around because I don't know if he really loves football. And I hate saying that. I hate questioning whether a guy loves football or not, especially ones I don't know. But when you don't want to play the last 4 or 5 games of the season, when you're asked, hey, would you even consider doing wildcat or scrambling type packages, and you say no. And even the Pro Bowl, right? Wasn't he asked to go to the Pro Bowl and he said, no, I'm good. So like he's good on football, and maybe he should contemplate some other things in his life, but not to get too much into that. But with Fields, post-June won him.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense. It's going to give them $10 million more in cap space. So right now they're currently, according to Over the Cap, which is a great website if you want to look at where the Jets are currently ranked and all these things. They're currently at $83 million in cap space roughly, with the $10 million save that they would with a post-June 1st cut of Justin Fields. You're now looking at $93 million to play with in free agency and obviously allocated for the rookies that you signed through the draft. they have some dead cap cuts that are already there in terms of dead money. Aaron Rodgers will count $35 million. So that's also another big hit. So you're talking about, and mind you, after you cut Justin Fields, and this is a post-June 1st cut, you're looking at $13 million of dead money, plus the $35 dead million in Aaron Rodgers. So now you're looking at $48 million in dead money. That's a lot of money for quarterbacks that aren't even on the roster anymore. Not to mention the fact another player in the quarterback room is going to be a free agent in Tyrod Taylor. So he also has a $6 million void. So now you're looking at over $54 million in dead money just for quarterbacks not to play on this Jets roster. They are completely resetting this room. I think that's the step one of the offseason is cutting Justin Fields.
Woody better delay that trip to the Bahamas or Aruba because he's going to have a lot of money being dished out this offseason. So delay some of these trips, Woody.
Look, it's a lot of money, but that's the current situation the Jets are in, and they're going to be looking for their new quarterback. So that to me, I think makes the most sense to start off in the free agency time is making Justin Fields a designated post-June 1st cut to save $10 million. You absorb the insane hit that you're going to get on the cap hit here again. Some other dead money that is going to hit the Jets, this just for fans to understand. Sauce Gardner has $11 million dead cap hit after signing that extension with the Jets. Quinnen Williams has a 9.8 as well. C.J. Mosley, who obviously left in retirement, has a $7.65 million cap hit. Michael Carter II, after being traded, is a $6.8 million cap hit. Malachi Corley has $618,000. Alan Lazard has $4.3 million. So the Jets have $75 million. That's before the Justin Fields cut of dead money against the cap. Now, it's great that they have $93 million after the Justin Fields cut, but think about that, $75 million before the Justin Fields cut in dead money already on this roster. But they have a lot to play with.
Yep.
But now let's talk about, Frankie, the other part of, hey, we're moving on from him, and now it's time to look at our own internal free agents and who we'd want to bring back. I think the big one that we have to discuss here is Breece Hall.
Yes, sir.
Should the Jets keep Breece Hall, Frankie?
That's a tough question, man. So I'll answer it this way. I did a lot of work on the running backs coming out of this draft, and I'll say this. I wasn't too encouraged by what I saw.
Besides Jeremiah Love?
I like the other Notre Dame back for us more. I like Jadarian Price more than I do Jeremiah Love as an every down back. We'll get into that, though, I'm sure. But I did some work on the backs. Unless you're going to draft Jadarian Price or maybe Jonah Coleman early-ish, meaning at 33 or 44, because Jeremiah Love's going to go probably in the top 20, you're going to have to look at other running backs on the market. I don't necessarily love the options. I know Kenneth Walker just won his Super Bowl MVP, but he's constantly in and out of the lineup.
Yeah.
Same thing with ETN. So, again, when it comes to Breece Hall, you know what I would do? I question also how much he wants to be here. He's been here during all this losing. You saw what it did to Quinnen. Granted, Breece is younger. He didn't experience that as much, but I still think there's something there where I think he's tired of being a Jet, to be honest, and I don't blame him necessarily. Breece. Yeah, I think Breece is a little tired, man. You could see some of the stuff starting to get to him. With that said, I would franchise tag him.
Yeah, so that's how we laid it out here.
That's how we laid it out. Give him the tag.
Give him the franchise tag, and he's going to have a $14.5 million projected cap hit for the franchise tag. Now, that is fully guaranteed, 14.5 on your cap. They do have the ability to give him an extension, obviously, and that would lower the cap. But if you're talking about $14.5 million with the tag, that's what they would be absorbing if they franchise tag Breece Hall.
Yeah, you could play around with that with a non-exclusive hit. Let him go seek other offers. The thing is, if a team were to sign him and you don't want to match, you'd have to give up a draft pick. So it's almost like, why would a team want to do that and give up a draft pick? Hey, there may be a team out there that really views Breece Hall in a better light than maybe what we're viewing him in this short window with Aaron Glenn, you know. But there's going to be teams out there, Ryan, teams like Kansas City
to pounce on him. Yeah,
that
absolutely.
are the Chargers, teams that want to get a quality offensive piece.
Really?
I mean, listen, Omarion Hampton was hurt last year.
True.
I don't know if he's their pass catcher necessarily. You just never know in this league. But
he's going to be highly sought after if the Jets let him walk into free agency. So I think I think ultimately they're going to really try to give him an extension, actually, believe it or not. I think the franchise tag, while and mind you, when we're recording this is February 12th when we record this. February 17th is the first day you can start tagging your players. So Breece Hall, I think they're going to try and work on an extension. But if they can't, I think they will ultimately do the franchise tag before they get to free agency. Keep him for one more year. Let's see what this offense can do. I think Frank Reich's excited to work with Breece Hall and bringing him back here and having it an offense that's really focused on the run again.
I wonder how Breece handles that, though. Breece has had injuries.
$14.5 million guaranteed to you.
It is, but it's not a great taste for running backs. They don't really love that tag.
But
you saw what it did with
Jets
Saquon and the Giants.
Him,
it's the beginning of the end in a way. I think you give Breece that franchise tag, you might be saying this is the last year you're here, honestly.
I think the Jets are going to bring him back either way, but we'll see if they do it on the franchise tag. I think for this purpose, though, to fix the Jets, franchise tag Breece Hall. Elijah Vera Tucker, guard, first-round pick. Has dealt with a ton of injuries, was lost all this past year to a torn tricep injury. He's good, man. He's really good. He's an unrestricted free agent. I would re-sign him and keep him. It wouldn't have to be a long-term deal. I think in this opportunity for this Jets team, I think they can re-sign him to a 2-year deal potentially, maybe 1-year opt-out. But I would bring back Elijah Vera Tucker, and that's what you got here to ultimately take that next step with this offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, the depth that you want on that offensive line can never be enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in New York, especially with what we've had to deal with our offensive line issues in the past. You want to shore that front up as much as possible. Elijah Vera Tucker, not only is he great when he's healthy, he's a great leader. They love him in that locker room.
He was captain.
Yes, and that's a variable here that I want players that are great leaders that help out the young guys. We have a young offensive line. Who's a better confidant for you than Elijah Vera Tucker? So, yeah, I would try to keep him, definitely. So that's part of the plan. Keep AVT. Maybe pay him a little bit more than maybe you'd like because, remember, he is a UFA, so there's going to be other teams looking at him. You got teams like the Eagles and other teams out there that may be looking at him and saying, hey, we know what he's capable of, and he's unfortunately been there. Let's bring him here and turn him into, a Super Bowl champion like what happened with Mekhi Becton kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, would it shock you if Vera Tucker went to another team and had an all-pro, couple of years here?
No.
So I think other teams are going to value him as well. He has versatility. He can bump out to tackle, but he's best suited as a guard. I think he'd be great at right guard again next to Membu, and it would help solidify that right side of that offensive line. You also have the Jets re-signing John Simpson to a 2-year, $14 million deal. He started every game last year. And O-line continuity, Frankie, in this part, if we keep Vera Tucker and you keep Simpson, you're talking about bringing back the starting 5 that you wanted to have this past year and giving them another chance at bringing some continuity to this offensive line.
Yes. For that price tag, I'm bringing back John Simpson, but I'm not bringing back John Simpson to be a starter. I'm signing John Simpson as like a glorified backup / fringe starter because I'm looking at the draft to bring in another left guard in this draft to compete with John Simpson. And if John Simpson can beat him out, you take that job. If you can't beat him out, then you're sitting, buddy, and you're going to be a very highly paid backup. But I think that's something this team needs to do. I want to invest in something that we have a differentiator at play here when it comes to what the Jets can bring in 2026 and beyond that other teams don't have, and that's the offensive line. And if you want it to be a differentiator, you got to keep investing in it and making it as great as possible. So I would re-sign both of them. I don't think we will, but in my plan, bring them both back, and I would also look at the draft and make that a real competition. And also, that includes AVT. I want a real competition, man. When you're rebuilding like we are right now, Ryan, and everyone out there, when you're rebuilding, you have to breed competition to breed the best of what you have. No one should be given anything. With that said, yeah, I would re-sign Simpson, but if he has an offer for 3 years, $25 million, and
you let him walk.
You let him walk.
Yeah, I would agree. But I think it'd be nice to bring back Simpson. He's really strong in the run game. He's had his struggles in the pass pro. And I do think you can ultimately upgrade the left guard position if you wanted to via the draft or through free agency. But
give a kid some time too.
yeah, I think it'd be nice though to bring back Simpson though. He's kind of a veteran leader as well. I feel like he gives that kind of oomph to that offensive line that it needs. Fashanu seems like a more reserved guy. He kind of reminds me a lot of DeBrickashaw Ferguson
Totally.
in his reserved style. So I think Simpson, you're talking about a guy in his late, he's what? I think he's 30 almost right here. So I mean, he's gonna be a guy that if you wanted to bring back, he's 29, gonna be 30. I would bring him back. I'm fine with that. I am good with them having continuity in the offensive line. Let them gel. The offensive line coach is coming back this year again, one of the few that was retained for Aaron Glenn on this staff after the massive overhaul and what he did. So I agree with this, Frankie. And internal free agent-wise, Breece Hall, Elijah Vera Tucker, John Simpson. I want to add one more here. Nick Folk. You got to bring him back for his age 43 season. He was unbelievably money for them this year, despite how bad the offense was and how few opportunities he had to kick. He's, again, another veteran presence. We know Aaron Glenn loves him, and I think it just helps solidify something that you just don't have to worry about and let Nick Folk kick for you again this year. I would bring him back on another one-year deal.
I would too. But just know this, he's bound to fall off a cliff eventually. It's going to happen.
Until I see it happen, he's
like
not
that.
falling off. You know
All
what I
right.
mean? And
Yeah, I got you.
He's a hometown hero. I think Jets fans love
I'm with you there.
him.
Yep.
Like, I understand he's going to be 43, and he's 42 right now. I would bring him back on a one-year, $3 million deal.
And all these deals we're just discussing, these aren't big-time deals.
No, these aren't big money.
might be a little bit more than we think, but
he's worth it in my opinion.
Totally. He's worth it, and he wants to be a Jet, as does Nick Falk. So yeah, I'm with you all around. Bring him back.
All right, now let's go to the external free agent route. So now we got to lay out the plan for who they're going to target out there in free agency. And you started off with something interesting here for the quarterback position. Now we know Kirk Cousins is supposed to be released by all reports by the Falcons.
Yeah.
So he will probably hit free agency here. But you, instead of going the free agent route for Marcus Mariota, Daniel Jones, I know will be out there. There's a lot of names out there, Frankie, and you're not going with any of those guys. Russell Wilson, Tyrod Taylor, Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Jeremy Garoppolo, Trubisky. Instead, you have the Jets trading with the Arizona Cardinals for Jacoby Brissett, reuniting Brissett with Frank Reich from their Indianapolis Colt days. Why do you think that makes sense?
I think Jacoby Brissett, the way that he plays the quarterback position and the way that he delivers that football without hesitation and gets the offense moving and gets those guys a little bit juiced up, I think it's exactly what that quarterback room needs, and that it's what this offense needs. I think we've had quarterbacks here that are either not good, semi-retired, or don't know what the hell they're doing and have no confidence in the pocket. Brissett's the opposite of all that.
Yeah.
He's got a few years left. He's confident in the pocket. He's not the best thrower of the football. He's not throwing dimes out there, but he gets the offense moving and he gets some juice in that room. The room needs some spark, man. It's like it's just dead. There's nothing. You see a Jets quarterback trot out, you're like, oh boy, you roll your eyes. And you know what's interesting about Jacoby Brissett? Him coming to the Jets at this point, let's say if we do trade for him, he'd be coming in at the age of 33. Do you know who did come here at the age of 33?
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Ryan Fitzpatrick. So you got both guys at 33. It's like a lucky number for us,
The
I
career
think.
journeyman coming in.
Yeah, kind of. And him and Brissett kind of had a little bit of similar numbers. Fitzpatrick a little bit better, but sort of similar, especially their last year before they came to the Jets, assuming Brissett does. I think if you're trying to fix the Jets, that's a good starting point.
As the bridge option for the Jets. So, look,
Absolutely.
I agree with you. I mean, look, Jacoby Brissett, I think, makes the most sense. We hear the Derek Carr rumors if he wants to come out of retirement. Let's not talk about that right now. But I think Jacoby Brissett in this scenario makes a lot of sense. And, Frankie, you're talking about a quarterback that threw for 3,300 yards, 23 touchdowns, 8 interceptions last year with a 65% completion percentage.
Yeah.
That'd be one of the best Jets seasons in their history.
Totally. Yeah.
And that's how bad it's been for the Jets.
Look what he did for Trey McBride.
Yeah.
Look at the year that Trey McBride had. He had one of the best tight end years ever. If you want to help,
Trey
Mason
McBride's
Taylor,
awesome too, though. Like he's
amazing.
Player,
So yeah, he'd have a good year, I think, with you or I playing quarterback. But still, I mean, I just like that Brissett does not hesitate to get the ball out and let his guys make plays.
Yeah, look, I mean, you'd be taking on a $9.1 million cap hit for Brissett. That's plenty of money for a backup quarterback. He will be 34 this upcoming season. I'm for it. I just don't know if Aaron Glenn's for it. That's what we're going to really – and Darren Muji, like what they're playing for the quarterback position. I think this is the first way to actually signal to your fans, we're taking this year as a year to evaluate the team, and we're actually investing in the quarterback position. Like you said from the start here, though, this will give them a legitimate starting quarterback, in my opinion, to play every single game. You will need to address the backups for that, though, too. Now let's go to the rest of the offseason in terms of free agency, which you have here. This is interesting, Frankie. You have the Jets signing Kenneth Gainwell to a 2-year, $10 to $12 million a year deal. He was the Steelers team MVP last year. He had over 1,000 scrimmage yards, 8 touchdowns, 73 receptions, 4th among all running backs, a PFF grade of 72.6 overall. Why do you like Kenneth Gainwell here for the Jets when they already have, if they in our scenario here, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen coming back from the knee injury who missed most of the season, and Isaiah Davis?
All right, well, Isaiah Davis is the odd man out in that equation right there, and Braylon Allen also probably has to prove himself. You know, I was all about Braylon Allen last offseason, but you got to prove yourself. And the Breece Hall thing, Breece Hall is going to come here on a franchise tag maybe, so I'm kind of considering all options. Maybe he doesn't want to play on the tag. Maybe he holds out. I'm just saying. You never know what's going to happen. So I want to bring in somebody that is a dual threat running back, and I think Philly misused Kenneth Gainwell big time because what I saw Kenneth Gainwell do last year showed me that he can be a dual threat running back in this game as an RB2. And I think we really need an RB2 that's also going to challenge Breece Hall a little bit. Like Kenneth Gainwell had 73 catches last year. He got targeted 85 times. I mean, like he had over 1,000 scrimmage yards last year, 8 touchdowns, and he did that on really limited touches overall in terms of on the ground. He had 114 carries, almost 5 yards a carry. I think Kenneth Gainwell is a great compliment to a Breece Hall in the sense of he kind of does what Breece Hall does, and I think he'll challenge Breece Hall. Again, the common theme here is competition. You want somebody that's going to say, you're catching balls out of the backfield, so am I. You're going to, run an outside zone, so am I. Get me in the game, coach. Let me show you what I can do. And then you get Gainwell cooking a little bit. Then Breece is on the sideline saying, damn, I got to get my pea hot too. Coach, put me back in. Let me show you what I can do. That is football, ladies and gentlemen. That is. And I don't think we talk about that element of the game enough. Ideally with Breece, you'd want a workhorse, a downhill guy, or goal line kind of back. I don't think this team needs that. That's what a team that is ready to win right now. You're breeding a competitive field of players, and you need people to compete with each other. I think Gainwell sitting behind Breece, assuming Breece is here,
it would make a really good one, too, but I will also say this.
And Breece, you could run the same plays for both of them, Ryan.
I still think Breece Hall is underutilized in the passing game. So I don't know if this makes sense to me for Kenneth Gainwell to commit that kind of money as a backup running back, but it would solidify your backup running back position really well. That's a lot of money to give to a backup running back, but if you had a 1-2 punch in Breece and Kenneth, you could sign me up for that. There are worse ways to run your offense, in my opinion.
The other thing I'm going to say, just last point, what he did with Aaron Rodgers out of the backfield was very interesting, Kenneth Gainwell, this year. He did a better job out of the backfield than what Breece did with Rodgers last year. Now, I know there's different circumstances.
Yeah,
it's different offense.
It's different offense. I can't compare those things. I really can't.
But what I'm saying is this. You can run the same offense with both these guys. And, Breece, you think you're a top 10 running back? I've called him a top 10 running back before. I'm going to bring in somebody that's really going to challenge you to get the best out of you. Nothing's given to you. So that's my approach to, fixing the Jets, Ryan.
Interesting. You're investing a lot of assets there in the running back position. The wide receiver position, you have some interesting names here. The big one that I want to talk about is Alec Pierce. Led the NFL in yards per reception, 21.3. He was drafted by Frank Reich when he was there with the Colts. You got him projected at a $20 million a year per deal.
I'm not doing that, by the way.
And I
just had that out
it'd
there.
Be a great deep threat, but they already have Adonai Mitchell here. They have John Mechie. I think they're going to draft a wide receiver here. I don't know if Alec Pierce is the target there, but we do have to move on to defense here, Frankie, for free agency. External free agent targets for the defensive side of the ball. I expect the Jets to heavily invest in this side of the ball because of how bad this unit is. You have some interesting names here at corner. You got Nashawn Wright from the Bears, and you have Tariq Woolen or Jamal Dean. Tell me,
Yep.
what are those of those three? Who's being prioritized here for the Jets and free agency?
I think Jameel Dean is somebody that I would love to come and be our second corner here. And I think when the year's at the conclusion, he'd be the cornerback one. I think Brandon Stevens would slip into that 2 role. Jamel Dean is a physical corner. He is a system corner to a degree, but also can play some man. He's a corner that's really, he fights for every last bit of everything on a football field. And again, that's the common theme here. I want guys that are going to come in here and want to fight and play hard-nosed football. Jamel Dean does. Tyreek Woolen, you're starting to get a little bit more fancy at the position. If the deal makes sense, it makes sense. I don't think it would make sense here for us. I'd probably go with Jamil there, and I think he'll be a little bit cheaper. Yeah, and then Nashawn Wright's interesting because of his ball hawk ability. You know, he was the only
Something the Jets don't have.
Yeah, he was the only player in the NFL last year with 5 interceptions and 10+ pass deflections. He's 6'4", which is interesting, and you don't get corners that big, usually that tall. So I think with Aaron Glenn's preference for wanting those longer corners, which he's spoken about in the past, you kind of match him up with the physical play, let's say a Jamel Dean. If you want to bring them both in, maybe you just take one. But I'd go after one of those two right there at corner and have them compete with, again, A.Z. Thomas. You're coming in, and you're going to be not handed the cornerback 2 role. You got to fight for that role. And if you want to play on this team, you got to maybe play a little bit nickel or a little bit in the box as a corner. And make some tackles. So I think, again, competition is everything here. So I like all those options. My favorite would be Nashawn Wright. It would be my ideal pick. But then after that, I go Jamil Dean. And then depending upon what Woolen's market is, I think he'll price this out.
Yeah, I can't see
think it's worth the squeeze.
I got to be honest with you, Frankie. I don't see the Jets investing that much money in Woolen just because he's going to demand a big contract, and they already invested a lot in Brandon Stevens. If they wanted to get one of these guys, I think it would happen. But I also could see the Jets addressing this in the draft and going young at the position, just because they did invest a lot of assets into that position already.
But Jamel Dean, by the way, quick point: he had the league's best passer rating allowed last year in the NFL. He was PFF's 5th corner.
Again, it's going to cost you a lot of money to get someone like Jamel Dean. So Frankie's got one of them targeting. He's got the
one
Jets,
of them.
one of the top 3 corners available in the free agent market.
I'm not drafting one.
Now, the other parts that we really have to hit on are the safety position. And look, Jalen Hawkins is obviously a big one there. Cameron Curl is another one. Talk to me about those 2 guys, because the Jets don't have any real starting safeties right now, despite what you think about Malachi Moore, who might have shown some improvement towards the end of the year. The Jets really need to address the safety position here too.
Yes. I'll say this. Cameron Curl is better than Jalen Hawkins, slightly better. He is more physical. He is great against the run, I think, which they both are really good against the run, but Cameron Curl's really special against the run. He's very durable. Cameron Curl doesn't miss any games. I have here he's never graded below a 65 in PFF, which is actually wild in 6 NFL seasons. He was 13th among all safeties in his last 4 years, ranked-wise. The Rams had to let him walk because of their cap situation, so they're going to have to let him walk, or they're not going to probably re-sign him. But Cameron Curl's somebody that I really think would fit best here. But there's something about Jalen Hawkins that that would intrigue me even more to bring him here. You know why? You were just on that Super Bowl or that AFC Championship team in the New England Patriots. We're taking one of your guys. We're going to give him, and he wants to stay there, we're going to give him an offer that he can't refuse. He's also a great leader. He's also a big locker room guy. He's also very good against the run, like Cameron Curl is. So I think that's the common theme here. They're both of those guys are really good against the run. He's a physical guy, Hawkins, and he had 4 interceptions last year, so he knows how to get his hands on the football. He had a sack and a half, too. So he's somebody that I would want because of those things, but also take one of theirs.
Yeah.
You want to compete with the Patriots? Take one of theirs. And he wants to be there. Bring him here. Seriously.
I think it makes a lot of sense for them to go get a Jalen Hawkins, and I'd be cool with Cameron Curl too. I think either one of those guys. I mean, hell, I would love to have both of them, but I think the Jets will take one of them and sign one of those guys because they know they need some bodies in that safety room. And then we got to really talk about the other level of this defense. Al-Qaeden Muhammad and Alex Anzalone. I think you could pretty much pencil these guys in as Jets players, Frankie, just because I think Glenn needs his guys from Detroit to bring that mentality to this Jets team that they've been desperately needing. In this scenario to fix the Jets, Quincy Williams obviously is going to be gone in free agency. You're letting him walk. Alex Anzalone will bring a really steady presence to that off-ball linebacker position. Pairing him up with Jamie and Sherwood, I think, would really help this second level of the defense. And then Al-Qaeda Muhammad, I mean, he's got 11 sacks off the bench last year.
Really good player.
Yeah, I mean, he's worked with Glenn for 4 years. I think that both those guys, I think you should pencil them in as Jets free agent targets.
Yeah, those are interesting plays. The only reason I'm not penciling them in, and you may, is because I'm looking at the draft to solve those two positions.
I know, but I feel like the Jets, since they have the cap space, man, they have to play with it. And I think with Anzalone and Muhammad, I think you can get legitimate two guys that can help your defense and give you depth and give you actually good players that can make plays for Aaron Glenn's defense. Because Glenn is going to be calling plays. And what's he going to want? Reliability and guys that he knows that can run his system. Those two guys he knows he can play in their system.
Well, you have to ask yourself this, and I think maybe you're on this side of the fence. You would bring those guys in, the edge and the linebacker, and then maybe focus on corner and safety in the draft, where I'm going the opposite way. Actually, I'm looking at.
So here's the thing. Yeah. I would sign 1 to 2 safeties automatically. I wouldn't draft corner, maybe. I mean, I wouldn't sign corner, to be honest with you, because I think that's a lot of money.
You would draft corners?
I would draft corners, okay. And I think because it's a good corner class. And the other thing I would say, too, is you need to have good startable players at linebacker and at edge rusher. They're changing this defense most likely to a 3-4 defense because they brought in Dunbar, who comes from a 3-4 defensive scheme.
Glenn ran
and
a little
Glenn,
bit of it
he
last
runs
couple years
he runs a mixture from Detroit.
Yeah.
It's different schemes, but Dunbar is primarily a 3-4 defensive coach. So you're going to need Muhammad in there to be able to set the edge the way they want. I would bring those two guys in.
That's fair. I think
beef up the middle with defensive tackle in the draft.
I'll say this too, to your point, in a 3-4, you really can't get enough linebackers and edge guys because you could have one guy playing an outside linebacker, one guy playing a defensive end in a 5 technique. So yeah, that's a good point. Yep.
All right, so that's free agency. We got a lot of guys here the Jets are most likely going to be targeting. We think they're going to look at, and I think it makes sense. Hawkins, Cameron Curl, not Tariq Williams, but Nashawn Wright potentially. And then I got them taking Anzalone and Muhammad and signing them to free agent deals.
At this point before the draft, to everyone, we got you. We're at 7 wins right now. We're at 7 wins.
7-win team, you think?
No, I'm just kidding.
I would say they're probably 5 to 6.
If they did all these moves we just said, I mean, there are a lot of moves. If they did those, that's a 6 or 7 win team before the draft.
$93 million in cap space after the Justin Fields cut, so you're going to have plenty of room to play with here. All right, now we got to talk about the draft. And I want to focus primarily on the first 2 rounds. They have picks 2, 16, 33, and 44. That's 4 premium picks. They have the chance to really set this roster in a good spot, get real difference makers at all 4 of these spots, and guys that you can rely on for a long time, you would hope. I'm not looking to take prospects that are projects, in my opinion, Frankie. I think you need to take real legitimate starters here. So let's run through the picks that you have here. You got Jets at number 2 overall. Obviously, there's no quarterback there to worthy of taking number 2 overall after Fernando Mendoza goes 1 to the Raiders. That's by all mocks and what everyone's talking about now. So now the Jets are going to have their opportunity to really draft the best player in the draft, you would think, if Fernando Mendoza is not thought of as the best player. You don't have them taking Arvell Reese. You have them taking David Bailey at number 2. Why Bailey?
David Bailey is the best pass rusher out of this class, and it's not even close. Okay, we have to understand that. David Bailey was top 2 or first this year, second last year, second this year, first last year by PFF in pass rushing. The guy's had 27 sacks in his last 3 years. The guy's a menace off the edge. I think you can put him in that sort of TJ Watt-like role that Carl Dunbar saw in Pittsburgh. This guy wouldn't skip a beat, man. And if you look at his measurables, he's got freakishly long arms. He was on this Bruce Feldman's freak list, which has become something that has been a little bit telling in terms of how successful some guys are, like Nicky Manwari was on it last year. He had a 405-pound bench press with those long arms, 550 squat. He was clocked in at over 22 miles an hour. He plays aggressive all the time. Yes, he's not great against the run. I don't really care. Teach him how to play against the run. That's what you got linebackers and defensive tackles for. I'm not judging a guy based on how he plays against the run necessarily. It's a variable, but it's not an important enough variable for me. When you're talking about the Jets and you're trying to fix the Jets, get me a menace off the edge that's going to cause havoc, force fumbles, and create turnovers on defense. That's what David Bailey will do, and I think he'll do that better than anyone in this class.
I think I'm fine with that. Obviously, other names that could be mentioned there. Arvell Reese is being projected a lot by the to the Jets at 2. And
Arvell Reese never forced a fumble in his college career, by the way.
Understood.
Isn't that a little bit
never been a
alarming
full-time edge, and he's projected to be an edge coming out in the NFL.
Even as a linebacker, he's never forced a fumble.
Understood. Though. Ruben Bain also as well. One thing I did see today is that there is talk about Arvell Reese being one of the most freakish off-ball linebackers they've ever seen.
Is, to a degree.
So, but in this scenario, we have the Jets signing Alex Anzalone. I think taking an edge player makes more sense. They need a bunch of edge players in this upcoming draft. They need a bunch of edge players for this team, to be honest with you. Jermaine Johnson and a very light Will McDonald, you need to have some real beef on that edge as well. Okay, pick 16. You got him going either wide receiver or interior offensive lineman, which is interesting.
Or defensive
tackle. I kind of think that makes most sense here is Caden McDonald from Ohio State. What do you think about the Jets taking him? Or I don't know if he's going to fall that far. Arizona State wide receiver Jordan Tyson.
Listen, if Jordan Tyson's there, you draft Jordan Tyson.
100%.
You don't even think about it. His tape speaks for itself. I don't need to get into it. He's as freakishly fluid, and the way he tempos his breaks and the way he's off tempos things so the corner doesn't know what he's doing. He plays like he's the best athlete on the field by a long shot, and he knows what everyone's doing. Extremely bright, and all the metrics say too what he does, and when he broke out at Arizona State lines up exactly to where you got the Jamar Chases and the Calvin Johnsons of the world. So I'm looking at him as someone, if he's at 16, I don't think he will be, you take him. If he's not there, I would look at Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate is a big body.
Again, I don't know if he drops to 16.
I don't think either of them will.
Mekhi Lemon feels like a more realistic pick for the Jets at 16.
Yeah.
And I would take him in a heartbeat. I love Mekhi Lemon. Bottom line, though, you see how we're both talking about wide receiver. I think that needs to be a real focus for the Jets, is getting a real playmaker, a wide receiver in this draft.
Yeah, the issue with Mekhi Lemon is always going to be the height variable. And is he
Puka Nacua ain't that big, man.
Puka Nacua is taller, though, by 3 inches. He's 6'2", and Mekhi Lemon's 5'11". That makes a little bit of a difference. I know it doesn't.
Amon-Ra's not that big either.
Amon-Ra's taller, though, than Mekhi Lemon.
I understand, but
Mekhi
Lemon plays the ball like one of the most aggressive wide receivers I've seen in a long time. He plays like a linebacker or a wide receiver in terms of how he attacks the ball. I need a kid that hungry who wants to attack the ball like that. Mekhi Lemon can provide that for you.
My question for you is this. That difference sometimes as a football player or as a wide receiver makes a difference. And for quarterbacks, that makes a difference. Having that's more than an inch, whatever that is. But regardless, it makes a difference, okay? And I just wonder with Mekhi Lemon, and I'd be fine with the pick, I wonder how scheme-dependent he could be, because Puka Nacua doesn't go to the Rams. Is he Puka Nacua? If Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't go to the Lions in that Ben Johnson system, is he Amon-Ra St. Brown? Parker Washington's another player that was drafted late at 5'11", who burst onto the scene for Jacksonville last year and had a great last game of the season. He's playing with Liam Cohen. I'm just worried that Mekhi Lemon is a little bit scheme dependent to get to his ceiling versus Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson that I think could reach their ceiling, but those regardless of scheme.
I would say in our scenario here, I don't think either one of those guys are realistic at 16. I don't think either one of those players will drop to They feel like top 10 players in this draft, like top 12, 10 players in terms of talent. So in this scenario, it's between Lemon or you take the defensive tackle. I think you take Lemon, in my opinion, in this scenario.
Well, I have two other options. So my big board there is Tyson, Tate. They're not going to be there likely, like you're saying. I agree. Then I would go with Caden McDonald. I think if you want to look at a one technique, a nose guard, a real nose tackle, that's your boy out of Ohio State. And the more tape I did on Caden McDonald, the more that I was telling myself, maybe Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs, maybe that defense looked a little better because you got that big boy up front. Just saying. He's exactly, they call him like a throwback nose tackle. We're running a 3-4. You need someone who's line up over the center and just get home. He reminds me a little bit of Dexter Lawrence, even a little bit better. Another option I have outside of the box, and as I was talking about earlier, I like investing in my differentiator. If you're telling me the Jets' differentiator is offensive line, give me a great offensive lineman, one of the best offensive linemen in this draft. I've spoken to people that said he's their highest graded. I spoke to Dom C., your boy online. He has him as his top interior offensive lineman that he's ever graded. I look at him on film. I'm in love with this guy as a prospect. That's Vega Ioane. Vega Ioane is a big-time left guard. This guy, if you took think about the biggest tree you ever saw in your life, right? I don't know if you even remember, but it's kind of a weird thing to imagine.
Yeah.
He's like a tree, dude, and you're not getting around him, and you're not moving him. And no matter how much you try, he will bury you if you try too hard. So you better be nice to him. He's a mean SOB, and I think you put him right next to Olu Fashanu, who we say, he's a little bit of a nice guy, a little bit nerdy, wears the glasses, kind of the Brickashaw vibe. Get this big SOB next to him and put them on Sunday on that left side of the line and tell me how many defensive ends and defensive tackles or off-edge guys are going to be able to even get home at all or even want to try to get home. That's a differentiator. So the pivot, I call it, is if the wide receivers aren't there, and I'm still up in the air with Lemon. You
clearly don't like him.
I don't like him. I don't like him for us. I like him for the
Doesn't
Rams.
that bother you if he goes to the Rams and becomes a next Jackson Smith and Jigba? Next Puka Nacua?
Listen, it's possible.
What do you mean it's possible? If you like the talent, then you like the talent. Figure out how to use it. I'm sick and tired of the Jets.
There's wide receivers, though, every year that come out. Do you think Mekhi Lemon's going to be the last guy that's going to come out at, 5'11", that can get in and out of breaks and is an SOB to the ball? Maybe he's a little bit more of that, bulldog to the ball. He does have that you don't see often. I give you that. But you might find the guy next year. You might find the guy later. I'm just saying, I rather go with that D tackle that's going to be a menace in the backfield, or that lineman that could make that offensive line some unit that the last dynasty we ever saw non-quarterback dependent was which one? The Cowboys. How did they build their dynasty with offensive line play? So I'm always going to look at that. But you're not wrong with Lemon. Lemon's in the mix here too.
Okay. That's what he's got at Twin 16, pick 33. Now, depending on what you addressed already in the first round, you got some interesting names here. Anthony Hill, linebacker out of Texas. Caleb Banks, defensive tackle out of Florida. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, safety out of Toledo. So let's stick with the other names here. I think the one that stands out the most for me is most likely Caleb Banks, defensive tackle out of Florida, a guy who I think had an injury this past year.
Yep.
Didn't really get to have an opportunity to show, but from what everyone's saying, if he was healthy this year and did play all year, there's potentially could even be a top 15 player. I think he might be a name that you could pay attention to at 33. The other thing
Senior Bowl he had.
The other thing I'll say with this too is, would you take Ty Simpson here at 33 if he slid to the second round, or would you wait till 44?
He won't make it to 44. I don't even know if he'll make it to 33. I don't think he will. So, actually, I don't think he'll make it to 33. I'm considering Ty Simpson is off the board at this point. If he's on the board, I would take him.
Flyer on him.
Yeah, why not? If he's there at 33, I would definitely take him. I also think if he's there at 33, you're going to have a lot of calls. A lot of teams are going to be like, hey, you guys want to trade that pick? 33 is the most traded pick in NFL history. So
who are you taking here at 33?
If Anthony Hill Jr.'s there, I looked at this guy on tape. This guy is as much of a menace as you can be as a linebacker. Again, another common theme. I'm trying to cause chaos. I'm a bit of a chaotic guy myself.
That's for sure.
I like causing chaos. Get David Bailey, Anthony Hill. Let's make quarterbacks not want to play the game. Let's make them think this guy's a maniac. I have to watch out. This is how we rebuild the Jets, with competition and chaos. And Anthony Hill, the numbers speak for itself. Go watch the tape. That's all I'm going to say. 8 sacks. He had last year 4 forced fumbles. He's sorry to curse. He's hitting balls out everywhere. He's getting interceptions. He's all over the place. He had 8 sacks 2 years ago. Tackles for losses. He is all over the field, and that's the kind of player that we need. And I don't think there's some linebackers in this draft that are like traditional linebackers. Yeah. He is a guy that could play back and can play up, and you kind of like Demario Davis in a way. Remember Demario Davis?
I never wanted him to go.
Yep.
And he had turned into an all-pro career. It's New Orleans. So, all right, now let's move to the second pick in the second round, number 44. Again, the Jets got this pick from the Dallas Cowboys in the Quinnen Williams trade. They have an opportunity, again, to get a huge playmaker here. And I think if they don't go wide receiver with Mekhi Lemon or one of the top 3 in the first round, I would not be shocked if you see one of these wide receivers get picked in Omar Cooper Jr. from Indiana or Jeremy Bernard from Alabama. Who are you taking between those two?
Listen, man, Omar Cooper Jr., the more that I watch Indiana tape, unfortunately I have to watch Fernando Mendoza throwing him the ball, but I like him better than Elijah Surratt. I think Omar Cooper Jr. fits the build to what you want in a wide receiver, as does Jeremy Bernard, by the way. They're both 6 foot, 6'1", 205 pounds, in and out of breaks, get every jump ball that they can, physical, aggressive, run the right routes. They're both very similar in a lot of ways. My comp for Omar Cooper Jr. is DJ Moore with a little bit of sprinkle of Pierre Garçon, if you remember.
Pierre Garçon.
And then Jeremy Bernard is a Chris Godwin. And they're both kind of like a Mecca Buka, remember from last year? I just love that kind of prototype as a receiver. There's a reason they're not going in the first round. They may, by the way, a late first round, but they're not projected for the most part. They're just quality receivers. I think as wide receiver 2s, they'd add a ton of value. So out of both of them, I love me some Omar Cooper Jr. because of his big playability. Jeremy Bernard's a little bit more controlled in his big play, but a little bit more consistent in what he does underneath. So I'd go with Omar Cooper, but I like both those options.
Yeah, I think I would take Bernard, and let's give him a wide receiver there. I think for the rest of this draft, they're obviously going to try and address the safety position. They're going to try and draft the quarterback position with a backup rookie. Who are some quarterback names you think the Jets would target in this upcoming draft, with Frank Reich obviously being at the helm and the head coach now of this offense?
Well, listen, man, I have one quarterback in mind out of this draft that I'm looking at as a late-round flyer, and I think bringing him in just brings another added dimension to what this team needs, and I think it's another added dimension to basically what any quarterback can do in the NFL. Looking at it overall, Taylon Green. If you haven't watched Taylon Green play football, put him on. Go on YouTube.com, type in Taylon Green. He's a big developmental project. He's a project quarterback, but that guy, the way that he's able to just dish out that football and able to move outside the pocket and able to run the read option the proper way, he's a freak, man. He's 6'6", and he was measured at the Senior Bowl at 6'6", so he's not 6'4.5" or 6'5". He's 6'6". He's 230 pounds. He's got a little bit of Cam Newton to him. Some people said Randall Cunningham. I don't know what he is. I don't know. A little Anthony Richardson sprinkled in, but I love his competitive fire. That kid loves playing football. That kid, when he gets throwing, he gets throwing. He had the 8th best QBR in college football this past year, so it's not like he's just a scrambling quarterback that can't throw. No, he can throw. He's very inaccurate sometimes because his mechanics are wonky, but he can be very weirdly accurate at other times. So kind of reminds me of Cam a little bit in that regard. So, hey, I would bring him in and let him sit and just see what you got there. Kind of like a Joe Milton kind of guy. Frank Reich knows how to develop quarterbacks. Maybe he'd learn a thing or two for the future.
Interesting name. I think the big thing that we're highlighting here on how to fix the Jets is there's no quarterback answer for the Jets here in this upcoming draft. Now that Dante Moore went back to Oregon for another year, the 2027 class is supposed to, and I put that in quotations because we don't really know, is supposed to be a quarterback-heavy class. So in this scenario that we're laying out for the Jets that we find is more realistic is you get the bridge quarterback in Brissett. I think Kirk Cousins is a real possibility here in this scenario too. one of those two guys.
Yep.
You draft one of these late-round flyers. No one's worth a top 44 pick in this upcoming draft class unless a Ty Simpson potentially falls into that second round, and you weigh the options. You take a playmaker, or do you get the quarterback maybe to develop? But the bottom line is that you have 3 first-round picks going into 2027. This roster that we're setting up here is giving you a chance to win some games. You're not going to be a playoff team. This Jets team is far away from the playoffs. They're far away from being truly competitive every single year. But what you can do is build a real foundation here. And we laid out some free agent targets. We laid out what you can do in the draft. That's not even mentioning what you can ultimately look at in the trade market as well if you wanted to go that route. But that's the quarterback future, I think, is aiming for 2027 to get that real answer. The future of this team in the part 3 of fixing the Jets here, really, we can be quick on this, is it all comes down to Aaron Glenn proving if he can be a viable head coach here, Frankie, in 2026. There are serious question marks about him. He completely overhauled his entire defensive staff and his offensive staff, firing both coordinators. Only other time that's happened going into from a rookie coach to a second-year coach was Hugh Jackson, and we saw what happened after that. 0-16, not good.
Yep.
So can Aaron Glenn prove that he can build an actual team that can be somewhat competitive? They're going to have a really tough schedule coming up in 2026. This, we feel like, can be a real bridge year for them going into 2027 for that rookie quarterback that they want to ultimately either trade up for or where they're ending up picking and taking their quarterback of the future. This, to me, makes the most sense for the Jets.
Yeah, if I was the owner, I would say this to Aaron Glenn. You want to keep your job for 27? I want to see that defense be somewhat, special. And I'm not saying good. I'm saying somewhat special. Like, I want to see moments where for a 3-game stretch, you had, 3 pick sixes. I mean, I want to see something that I'm like, all right, this guy may not know anything about offense or may have some deficiencies because he just started coaching a few years ago and doesn't really understand the whole game yet. But he can call up a hell of a defense, and he could scheme it up like Mike McDonald did with Seattle. You saw some of the schemes he was running. He confused the hell out of those Patriots receivers and Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels has been an OC for forever. He's been in more Super Bowl appearances as an offensive coordinator, I think, than any coordinator in history, or at least in the last 30 years. What did McDonald do? He confused the living hell out of him. Aaron Glenn, you want to be the guy here? You want to
show your defensive chops, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you don't, we're going to look in another direction. It's that simple.
It is that simple. Look, that was a lot we just laid out there, Frankie, between free agency, the draft, and where this team is ultimately going in 2026. Jets fans, let us know what you think about the future that we let out for how to fix the New York Jets. It's a loaded question. There's a lot of ways you can go here, but we appreciate you as always. Let us know in the comments section what you think of our plan. Who do you think the Jets should target in free agency? Who do you want them to target in the draft? Hit us up in the comments, and as always, hit that like and subscribe button on the New York Post Sports YouTube channel to catch all the offseason content between Frankie, myself, and Kaz. We're going to be here covered all offseason. And until next time, Jets fans, go Jets.